Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, TV Reviews, Connections in Mind, and welcome back to another installment in my review and reaction series to each and every episode of Season 4 of Star Trek Discovery. Now, if you've never seen one of my reaction episodes before, this is where I give my brief synopsis of the latest episode of whichever series I happen to be reviewing at the time, give my thoughts on what I liked and disliked, what I thought worked and didn't work, as well as some analysis of certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. Now, just to get this out of the way, this will be a full spoiler review and reaction to the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery, so if you have not seen this latest episode yet, I highly recommend coming back when you have, because this will be full-on spoilers from here on out. So that said, without further ado, let's get into Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 5, entitled The Examples. This episode is entitled The Examples because during the course of investigating the DMA, the Dark Matter Anomaly, it is discovered that while Stamets is scanning this anomaly, it actually disappears from sensors for about 4.5 seconds, and then reappears about 1,000 light years away, threatening a colony of the Akali species, species I believe that we saw in Season 1 of Star Trek Enterprise, and Discovery and a Federation task force are sent to evacuate this colony. However, there are 6 life signs separate from the evacuation site, and it's revealed that those are prisoners, what this colony refers to as the Examples. They were in the prison system that was set up by the Emerald Chain, the Orion-led coalition that was in place before the burn was solved, and the Federation is back before the Federation was on the rise again. These six prisoners were set aside as examples in order as a crime deterrent, and Burnham says, "No, we got to get these people out of here." And the administrator's like, "Well, all right, if you want to save them, you can't, because there's biometric locks that only the guards were able to access, and they've already left. So I don't know how you're going to get them out of here, but if you want to do that, that's fine." And so Burnham and Book tell Saru, "All right, continue with the coordinating the evacuation. We're going to go out and save these prisoners." So while they're doing that, they have to navigate a pretty much booby-trapped prison here. And once they disable all these booby traps and finally get to the prisoners, they're like, "Well, hey, if you're gonna rescue us, A, we're not gonna be welcome amongst these populations, but B, you're just gonna lock us up again. No, we need assurances that we're not gonna be locked up again, because these people, while they were set aside as examples under the Emerald Chain, I believe there's 6 prisoners. 5 of them were locked up for just petty crimes. One was, cheating at a card game, or taking a shuttlecraft for a joyride. And they're like, "No, we've been locked up here for basically life imprisonment for petty crimes, and that's not right." And so they said, "No, we're not going to leave here unless, and we're not going to let you leave pretty much until we get an assurance that we're not going to get locked up again, and we're going to be protected by the Federation." And so while Burnham and Book are dealing with this, on Discovery, there is Stamets and Tig Notaro's character, I can never remember her name, are working with a scientist who comes aboard, and he's been working on the next generation spore drive for Starfleet, and they're working on a simulation to help learn some data on the new on the Dark Matter Anomaly, because before Discovery leaves Federation headquarters, it's revealed that because the DMA was able to move from one place to the other, seemingly at will, no natural phenomenon could cause this. It is artificial, and because Starfleet's basically said, all right, all the other like mega powerful species that we've encountered, the Metrones, the Nacine, the Q. I mean, we have no indication that any of these people are responsible for it. We're designated these species, species 10C or whatever. So now we know that it's artificial, and Stamets and the scientists are working on a simulation that is basically recreating the DNA in very, very small form in Discovery's engine room, basically, in a containment field. And Saru's basically like, well, wait, you're going to make a wormhole / black hole in the middle of the ship. Is that not insanely dangerous? And he's like, no, I gotta be able to have a kill switch. So if this gets out of hand, I can shut the power down and stop the experiment. So before you destroy the ship, because he is thinking, it's like, no, you're gonna run away with this, and you're like, as the experiment runs, he's allowed the experiment to run through. It's like you're starting to get data from it and trying to figure out how it works, but like it's taking more and more Discovery's power, and the containment field is about to fail before they get the data that they need. And it's like, no, wait, just keep going, I got the data. But of course, Suru's like, no, this is going to destroy the ship, and we can't benefit from this if we're all dead. So he flips the kill switch, and the experiment's ended prematurely. But they have some of the data that they have. Meanwhile, on the planet, on the colony, I guess, Burnham and Book are able to free the prisoners, and they're about to beam away. However, one prisoner reveals that, no, unlike these other people, I was here for a reason. I killed someone. Not only killed this guy, I took an artifact that is necessary for the species. That's basically, the family tree of this family recorded into this artifact. And this guy that he killed had a young daughter, and it's like, not only did I rob her, change her future immeasurably, but I also robbed her of her past. So like, no, I'm going to stay behind. And he gives this artifact to Burnham, and Burnham, Book, and the other 5 prisoners beam back to the Discovery. And he's like, no, like, you don't know it's a certainty, but that this anomaly is going to hit. But once they beam back to the ship, it's revealed that no, this anomaly is going to impact this colony, and you are going to die, and we can't beam you back. So this prisoner's like, no, can I please tell you my story about what happened? And then he basically reveals, yeah, I was homeless, I was, lost, and this guy, this guy welcomed me into my home to a sleep and a meal, and while he slept, I tried to rob him. He woke up and he saw me. We struggled, and I killed him. As he's saying this, they cut communications. The anomaly's wiped out, and after all this is said and done, the people on this colony are going to basically refugees now, and Stamets is wrestling with the results of this experiment. Culber's also wrestling with the reality of his job, that he's basically advised by David Cronenberg's character that, no, you got to take a break and deal with these issues before you can effectively help others deal with their issues. And the final scene in this episode sees Book in, I guess, I don't remember what the name of the lounge is on 10 forward, on Discovery. It's not 10 forward, but it's basically 10 forward. And he commiserates with this scientist character who is, very sure of himself, and he's like, no, I get to see, I was very close to this experiment, but Book realized, like, oh, you knew more about this anomaly than you let on. And he's like, yeah, I already discounted I knew it was artificial, but I also discounted the possibility that all these other races that Starfleet was realizing they weren't responsible. It's like, he reasons that, like, all the power of Discovery couldn't contain this anomaly that was, like a tiny fraction of the anomaly itself. And in order for this anomaly to get the power it needed, you basically harness all the energy of a hypergiant star, and that's like unfathomable power. And we're left with this ominous line where it's like, Book saying it's like, the scientist go like, oh hey, I mean, I recognize your anger. It's like, you don't know anything about me. It's like, oh no, it's like maybe not, but I know anger. I know it's a very useful emotion, and that's already kind of an ominous line to end on. But then we see him, the camera focuses on him, rubbing his neck, and we zoom in, and there's something on the back of his neck, like a growth or something. I'm not sure exactly what it is, and that's when this episode ends. So, what I liked about this episode is, yes, it's nice that we get back to the overarching narrative of this season, that is the DMA. I love the plot twist that go into it, that is in fact artificial. I like the fact that we're dealing with actual interesting characters, like the character of the one prisoner. It's like, no, that's an interesting concept that you don't often see that in most media, honestly, but also in Star Trek. The only other episode of Star Trek that comes close to dealing with this sort of conundrum is there's an episode of Star Trek Voyager, which now I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's a dealing with prisoners and the ethical treatment of prisoners, and justice in the prison system and as a whole. That was actually really interesting. I also like that we're dealing with, we're continuing to deal with the emotional trauma in the crew and all these, but we're sowing the seeds of interesting mystery, and I like that. However, that also makes me a little leery because, so many times when we sow the seeds of a mystery, and it's like, all right, we're going to go in the interesting direction, unwrapping the mystery box. It only works if the answers inside the mystery box are actually interesting and compelling. And Star Trek recently, with some of the mystery boxes in Discovery and season 1 of Picard especially, they've been incredibly hit or miss, in my opinion. So I'm interested. It's keeping me engaged, but I'm cautious about what we're going on. Like, especially that thing on the back of that guy's neck. What is that? I actually had to go back and pause it and look at it closely. It's like, is it like a burned off tattoo or something? My only thoughts were, it kind of looks like a mouth, and that made me think of the interface, like the nightmares that Data sees, and like the interface reality that he's going for in his dreams. That's where the things were going on in the neck. The other thought is, it made me think of way back in season 1 of Star Trek Next Generation, Conspiracy, the aliens, they put the parasites to control people, they stick like the breathing tube out the back of their neck, and it didn't look quite like that, but it looked just enough like that. It's like, what if those aliens that we've never heard from again after that episode of Next Generation are back? That would be amazing. That's my current working theory going in, and if they go down that path, I'd be so stoked that they're going to bring that back. Really deep pulls into that, but especially since that guy is kind of acting cagey, it's like he's, the fact that he knows more than he's letting on. It's like, oh, I mean, he could be possessed by the all-powerful, the ultra-powerful species that's controlling the DMA. You don't know. We'll see. But I really liked this episode. I mean, really, the only thing that I kind of didn't like about this episode, and I mean, Tig Notaro's character, I've talked about her in the past, and sometimes she can be funny. This one, I mean, just, I feel like, not knowing, Tig Notaro's, normal stand-up shtick, but the way she's kind of playing it straight, sometimes that can go for a laugh, but this one, it's like, you're really underreacting to a lot of what's going on here, and I don't think it works. It's not particularly funny. Like, the one read where it's like, oh, bad news, this is what, the containment field's failing. It's like, that's not funny, and it's, the delivery wasn't funny, and Like a normal human being would be like, oh, this is that would not be how a normal human being would react, in my opinion. So that's my only real nitpick of this episode. Some things that I noticed that you may have seen before, and this is one. I'm going to start with one where it's not something you've seen before. It's something you might have read before, because the fact that, the DMA is now artificial and there's a species potentially behind it that it was thought natural. It's wiping out planets, and people are having to Starfleet's having to evacuate people off these planets and colonies or whatever. It makes me think of the Genesis Wave series of books. It was a trilogy, and then there was Genesis Force, which is also dealing with these events. That one, an unknown species kidnaps Carol Marcus, and they basically brainwash her to create a new version of Genesis from Star Trek 2 and 3, and they basically unleash a wave that's wiping out planets across the Federation and Romulan and Klingon space. That made me think of that a lot. Also, the Beatles or whatever in the prison, that their weapon, not only are they landmines, but also have the spinning red discs or whatever that they fling out and start burrowing into things. That made me think of the burrowing alien death balls in Battleship. Then they're bouncing around and doing that. They look kind of similar too. One's a sphere and one's a disc, but somewhat same sort of thing. Also, the prisoners, that one prisoner's story, even though it takes a different direction, it kind of started out a little, like, the setup is very similar to Les Miserables, but, that's one, obviously they go in two entirely different directions on that front. And finally, the fact that Zora, the sphere data that basically created the computer on Discovery, is now like, oh, I didn't know you. Burnham's like, oh, I didn't know you felt emotions. Like, this is a recent development. It's like, it makes me think of the other artificial life forms that we've had in Star Trek, that they slowly gain if not human emotions, the closest equivalent to them. It's talking about Data and the Doctor from Next Generation Voyager, so we have that going on here as well. So those are my main thoughts on this latest episode of Star Trek Discovery. What did you think of episode 5 here? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What about my analysis? Do you agree? Disagree? Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for this for next week for my next reaction episode for Star Trek Discovery, as well as my next movie review, which will be for Spider-Man No Way Home. I believe it's out tonight, and I will be seeing it tomorrow evening. I'm going to be really avoiding spoilers or anything like that. I'm going to try to go into this and be just as excited as I possibly can, and I'll be getting that review this weekend. If you liked this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching, but just remember, there is nothing new under the sun, and yes, you have seen it before.